we just crammed all these games into a single cartridge. But of course, there's a catch. Actually, a few. Let's finally take a look at the controversial Mig Switch V2 and what you need to know before even thinking about it. This is Sergio AM. Welcome to It Came From a Box. The Mig Switch V2 is a flash cartridge for the Nintendo Switch that lets you store and play backups of your physical games, all from one cartridge. There are a few clones out there.
It's like a filthy, gross, sticky alley.
But the Mig Switch was one of the first. These were sent to us by the guys over at Mig Switch United, an official distributor here in the US, and just to be clear, this isn't sponsored. Off the side, we have a microSD slot, and it supports up to 2 terabyte cards. But I wouldn't suggest you load anywhere near that many games on it, which has to do with this little button. More on that soon. Now, before you start adding your games, you're going to want to update it.
I'll give you a quick run through, but don't consider this an official guide.
To do so, head over to the official Mig Flash site and download the latest file for your OS. Then place this update.s2 file onto the root folder of the microSD card. Next, insert the microSD card into the Mig Switch. Then insert it into the switch to power it. Once you do, you should then see a tiny flashing LED light which will flash as it updates and turns solid when it's done. Now, to digitize and back up your games, you'll need the Mig Dumper, which you can get by itself or in a bundle with the Mig Switch. It has a USB-C port on one end and a cartridge slot on the other. So you just plug it into your PC, cable not included, pop in a game, and it shows up like a regular connected drive. And this is how Switch games look. They're just folders with a few files inside. At this point, you can back it up whenever you want and then copy it over to a microSD card. Like us, games come in all sorts of sizes. Some are under 1 gig and others can go over 20 gigs. So you'll want a card with enough space for what you plan to put in it. I went with a 512 gig card, but I would suggest going smaller around the 256 gig range, and more on why in a bit. Let's talk game cards. So I had to dig into this myself, but Nintendo Switch cartridges, for the most part, are read-only, so the console doesn't write to them. When connected, you'll download game updates and patches onto your console's internal memory or the connected microSD card, not on the cartridge itself. Each cartridge also has a digital signature or certificate and a unique serial number, which is how Nintendo verifies authenticity. The console then checks those embedded identifiers with Nintendo to confirm it's legit. Now, the Mig Switch mimics that exact cartridge, so if you're backing up your own games, the system should treat it the same way. But it gets a bit complicated, so let's talk risks. The main reason the Mig Switch is controversial is because it lives in this kind of gray area. Is it legal? Is it breaking Nintendo's terms of service?
Not really. Maybe.
Is it safe? But yeah, they all come with a lot of risks, mostly relating to bans. There's many ways that Nintendo can detect unauthorized use of their games, which can get your console and account banned. That means no online services for multiplayer, no game updates, no access to the eShop, which means no more accessing your purchases, and no access to gift cards or balances. There's also no access to Nintendo Switch Online, which includes your cloud saves. And if you have a family plan and you're the main account holder, it's even worse because your ban affects all linked accounts. Now, let's be honest, some of you are thinking of sailing the high seas to find games online. I am not recommending that. But if that's your plan and you put one of those games on here, which Nintendo has blacklisted, as soon as you click it in and turn on the console, there's a very high chance you're most likely getting a ban. That's because the console logs that game's certificates and stores it until the next time it goes online to then verify it with Nintendo, which triggers their anti-piracy measures, resulting in a ban. So even if it doesn't happen immediately, it can happen eventually. Now, even if you use it with legit backups of your own physical games, there's still a few risks. So say for some reason your backup is incomplete, corrupt, missing files, certificates, etc., there's a chance that can get you banned. If you decide to use the same copy of a game simultaneously on multiple consoles, say one with the Mig Switch and the other with the official physical cartridge, that can trigger a ban because it implies there's a copy of it, which is against Nintendo's terms of service. And there's of course a chance that Nintendo can one day figure out another way to detect it, so even if it works today, a future update could, believe it or not, get you banned. There are no guarantees. So the safest way to use it is on a dedicated offline console that isn't linked to a Nintendo account. To test it, I used it on another Switch that I had with another Nintendo account. I went offline with airplane mode, which disables all wireless communication, but you can simply turn off or disconnect Wi-Fi. Once your backups are loaded onto the microSD card, you can pop the Mig Switch into your console, and the Switch should see it like a standard cartridge. I believe it loads the first game alphabetically, and you can then launch and play it just like the real thing. Now, as to how you switch games, the original Mig Switch required you to eject and reinsert it to switch to the next game. But the Mig Switch V2 now has this tiny button at the top. Click it to change it to the next game, or hold it to go backwards through your list. It's much more convenient, but it's difficult to access, and it's still a slow process. I loaded 15 games on the card, and clicking that tiny button that many times gets old really fast. And that's why I recommend keeping it to 10 games or less, but the choice is yours. So if you collect physical games and want a more convenient way to carry or access them, when used correctly, the Mig Switch 2 is a risky but great solution. I love the idea of taking this around instead of a bunch of cartridges. But say you'll lose it or someone else gets their hands on it and then they use it on their own console, there's now a chance that the cartridges you copied can be blacklisted. Yes, it's a hypothetical, but it can happen, which is why I think it's best paired with a dedicated offline console. I also really like the Mig Flash Dumper, which makes it very easy to back up games, and I honestly wish Nintendo offered something similar in some way. But with that said, I'd love to know what you think of the Mig Switch V2. Would you use it? Does it cross the line? I want to hear all about it down in the comments. Let's talk. When these first released, the demand was extremely high, and it took months for them to manufacture these, which led to pre-order shipping 3 to 4 months later. Since then, they've been very strict on who they allow to sell and distribute these. A while back, the list included over 12 distributors in the USA, and it's now down to just 5, one of which is the guys at Mig Switch United that I want to thank for sending a unit our way. They assured me that now that things have calmed down, most orders should ship within 24 hours, so if you do want to get your hands on one, I'll have links in the description below. Once again, this is Sergio AM. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and I'll see you for the next box. If you like this video and want to help us out, click that thumbs up button and leave a comment below so we can talk. Now, if you want to go further, subscribe and ding the bell to stay notified whenever we post a new video. You made it to the end, and I just want you to know that you are the reason we do what we do. This is Sergio AM, and I'll see you for the next box.